Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 10-9 and Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all and y'all rocking with me. For this episode, I'm going to be speaking on prison rec yard stories from my own experience within the Florida Department of Corrections. Now, if you've been following me for a little bit, you've heard my story. You've heard about what I've done to people. You've heard about what happened to me, what was done to me. It's not like I was the superhero in every story. I got hit up too, and that generally happens when you're in the mix inside of prison, when you're in the drama, when you're involved with gangs. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. If you're slanging iron, you're most likely gonna get hit back with something. Now for me, and me only, the three main places that haunted me with this uncertainty, where I would get these thoughts of what if, what could happen, what if this happened. Those three places are the dorm, confinement, and the rec yard. The dorm, I was slashed coming outside of a dorm. I was fired up with a brick and a sock inside of a dorm. A lot of violence goes down inside of these dorms. And the majority of dorms that I was in were open bay, meaning there was no cells. You had bunk beds, and you didn't even have cameras inside of here. So you got to wrap your face up when you sleep. People are getting cut in their sleep. People are getting ran down on in the bathroom. It doesn't matter if you're taking a shit, whatever. You can get hit up at any point in time inside of these dorms. The uncertainty inside of there is no feeling of safety. And you get used to sleeping without sleeping, if that makes sense. You can really only describe it to somebody that's experienced it and have them understand truly how it feels. When you have to sleep with a sheet over your face, but put the sheet so close that you can still see the shadows outside of the sheet, so you can see if someone's walking up on you. The anxiety, the feeling of something can happen at any moment, and then boom, when it actually does, you hope it isn't you, you hope it isn't one of yours. You take the sheet off, you look, this kid's leaking out of his head, but he's not affiliated with you. Now you gotta scan the whole room. Got 80-something people in here. You're watching who's moving where. He threw a weapon, make sure it didn't go by you. There's a lot of feelings that comes with living in an environment like that. And it takes its toll on you every single day you live inside of that environment. Confinement. You never know who you're going to be put inside of a cell with. We do not have segregation. So if you're white, you can get put in there with Spanish, you can get put in there with black, it doesn't matter. If you're 4 foot, you can get put in there with somebody that's 6'8". If you're in there for a drug charge, you can get put in there with somebody that's got 2 murders. They say that they try to match people up. It's completely bullshit. If you don't believe me, look up some of the people that have died inside of the Florida Department of Corrections because they were put in the wrong cell with somebody. Or look up Frederick Patterson III. I did a video on him. They put him in the cell with a sexual predator. The guy exposed himself. Frederick Patterson ended up beating him to death. Now he's facing the death penalty because of it. You get a good bunkie in confinement, that's what's up. The only thing is, people are on average in there for 30 to 60 days. If you got over 300 days in confinement like I did, you already know you're going to be going through bunkies. If you get a bunkie that you hate, you can't stand them, either you like keeping the room clean and he doesn't clean and it's a problem because you're checking him on it. Now there's animosity, you got to fight him. You don't want to sleep inside of a cell with somebody you just fought. You don't know if you're getting moved in with somebody that already has a weapon in the cell. You don't know if someone just got moved in and someone else passed a weapon under the door because he's cool with the orderly. There's so many different uncertainties inside of confinement. You hear the fighting clearly. You can hear it going down in another cell, someone getting beat. There's no safety. No one's kicking the door down for you to get the CO's attention as you get your brain stomped in inside of the cell. Nobody cares. It's convict code. You shut the fuck up, go about your day. Just lay in your bunk, read your book, pretend you don't hear it. If you don't like what you heard, pray about it. That's about all you can do. Now the rec yard. For me, the rec yard was my first time being around a massive group of inmates aside from being in chow. And chow is nothing. Even though you're around everybody, we're not allowed to speak when we're lined up, when we're going around the compound. We're not allowed to speak inside of chow. So if you get caught talking, The CO is going to make you dump your tray. They're going to kick you outside. If you're in the youth offenders, you might have to do push-ups or whatever inside of the actual chow hall. They might slap the food in your face. They treat the YOs a little bit differently. If you're at an adult prison, you might get kicked out of chow, and they make you go and grab a Flintstone, which is basically a push lawnmower. As you push, the blades rotate. They're going to make you push grass all the way until chow's done. They might give you a DI, they might spare you, and then you get sent back to the dorm hungry because you didn't get to eat. If you don't have canteen, well, you're going to be hungry tonight, and it is what it is. If you weren't the one talking and it was somebody else, but you got caught for it and you don't get to eat, now you got to go and press them about that. Hey, I didn't get to eat because of you, so you throwing me some fucking food tonight? No? Well, now you got to take it to the next level because all eyes are on you and people want to see what you're going to do about it. If you do nothing about it, it's going to fuck with your reputation inside of prison. Reputation is everything. Violence gains respect. Going to the rec yard, when you're around a massive group, different gangs, Florida Department of Corrections is so wild. Your dorm might not even be going to rec, but if you know how to move, you can sneak out to someone else's rec yard. So this is really where, outside of the dorm, gangs can press you. And not every rec yard is big. The one at Sumter CI for the YOs, it was tiny. The adult side was huge. Appalachia had a decent sized rec yard. There's only a couple of COs out there. And the gun towers, we had a gun tower at Sumter CI outside of the dorm. We didn't have to worry about an AR-15 on the rec yard. So when it goes down, we don't worry about getting shot. None of that. You're not even worried about getting sprayed because what is the can going to do when you're in a rec yard? You're in fresh air outside. It's not that bad. You're going to choke a little, yeah, but it's not nothing like getting gassed inside of a dorm or even worse, getting gassed inside of a cell where the oxygen just depletes and your fucking lungs just close. You can't physically breathe in air. Outside, you can get off. You can crash for a good little minute. And realizing that as you go out to rec, you got to know how to run. If it goes down and you're outnumbered, you got to know how to run. And if you fall, it's over with. The second you fall, you're going to have 4, 5, 6, 7, however many people on top of you. Pokers, knives, locks, socks, razors, box cutters, whatever. The thought of all of this is racing through your head before you ever step on a rec yard. And my very first time going to rec was at Sumter CI. And if you haven't watched that video, I suggest you go check it out to get an understanding of how this correctional institution was operating and what kind of welcoming we got our first day. But going to rec, we got to line up outside of the dorm. We got the gun tower right here. He loves just cocking back the AR-15 every single time he sees us, although I never heard of anybody getting shot. Except for a story that I was told by a CO that had been working at Sumter forever. In the back right corner of the rec yard, an inmate tried to escape. He tried to jump over the fence. He got caught on the barbed wire and he was shot by the tower. And from what I was told, the clothing that was stuck up in the barbed wire, they were able to get his body, but his shirt, pieces of the cloth were entangled inside of the wire. And they left it there for a little bit. I don't know how long. I don't even know if the story was true. I'm just telling y'all what he told me. He said they left the clothing, the pieces of his shirt, blood stained and all, up on the wire so other inmates could see it. So they knew what would happen if they tried to escape. And he bragged about how the town of Bushnell, Florida, where Sumter CI is at, if an inmate escaped, they preferred you did it on the weekend. They wanted to have a fun fucking Friday or a fantastic Saturday. That's how he explained it to me. And they would get the dogs and the shotguns, a couple of beers, and go hunting for the inmate that escaped. And no matter which way they find you, you're not going to make it back alive. They're going to kill you. And nobody's going to say anything because in this little town, this country-ass secluded area, they either work in the prison, know somebody that works in the prison, or they support the prison. Now on the way to rec, before we get to the cage that actually lets us in, there was a dorm to the left. It is attached to E dorm, D dorm, and F dorm. And you can see an open window with a white board inside, like the ones that are in there for school. When you take off the little marker and you go ahead and write on the board, they had a board for the gang members. And it listed every single gang. Zoes, Bloods, Kings, Cribs, GDs, Cutthroats, everybody. It had the heads, the leaders at the top, whoever else they thought had pull, and then it had all the soldiers listed. And everybody would try to peek in to see whose name was on the board. Everyone's looking to find out who's affiliated with what gang if you don't already know. Or you wanted to just see if they had your name written down to see if they already knew who you were affiliated with. Because if one person popped off on another and they knew you were affiliated, now they're watching the rest of y'all and they might sweep all of y'all up at one time to put you under investigation. And when we stepped out on this little ass rec yard for the very first time, it was so small. I just remember it was tiny. It was nothing like how I thought it was going to be. I think there was only 1 or 2 COs with us. There was one basketball fucking hoop. No court or nothing. And I don't even think that the basketball hoop was cemented into the ground. I think it was the kind that you would have in a driveway or something. Like, it was cheap as shit. The YOs had nothing. And I guess AB is the one that brought the hoop or whatever for us. There was a Nerf football. But we never had games because it was gang division. You know what I mean? And unless the whole team is going to be the same gang, it's just not going to work out like that. Shit wasn't friendly. My very first day out there, I'm looking around. I'm looking at the fences. We were supposed to stay, I think, 12 feet away from a fence. And if you're within 6 feet, they're allowed to shoot you. They had some rule like that. I forget what it exactly was. But if you can get close enough to a fence, you can start wiggling it around until a piece breaks off. And you'll have a crooked piece you can straighten out, make a poker. At Lancaster, you could get the razor wire, bend it back and forth and rip a piece off. You'll have a razor wire and then you just tie it onto something and you can hit somebody up. But my first time going to rec, it was nothing like what I was told, and I experienced nothing. It wasn't too intimidating other than the fact that the day before, my first day at this prison, they crashed out on the rec yard. So anytime you step out there, it's always the possibility of what if. And that never goes away until you go home. Now, Lancaster Correctional Institution had a massive rec yard. And there was literally this big ass tree damn near in the middle of it. And people used to fight behind the tree because the tree was so massive, it had enough cover for 2 people to fight. There was 2 different sets of benches. There was even a game room in another little mini dorm, but it was shut down by the time that I was there. And they had, like, you know, I forget what they're called, the little, like, arcades, like, you know how you got the thing and you twist it and it kicks and the ball goes from one end to the other. They had that, and I don't know when the hell that was open. That must have been when Lancaster was soft, because when I got there, Lancaster was rocking, and we had 0 privileges at the time. And rec at Lancaster, if less than 3 people got hit up in a day, like 3 people, you know what I'm saying? Cut, fired up, poked up, we could go to rec. If more than that, like let's say 5 people got hit up or more, they're locking it down. They're not letting us go to rec. It was so common for people to be getting hit up at Lancaster. We could still go to rec. Even though this kid just got split in the morning, another one got split at Chow. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was rocking. It was seriously rocking. And if they don't let us go, it's only going to rock out even more, because people are going to get hungry. They're going to want to hit canteen. People are going to want to get out. They're going to want to walk around, get some energy out. Because when we're on lockdown inside of Lancaster, we literally just sit in the dorm. I was a B-dorm baby, so I'm in an open bay dorm. No cameras. I mean, the second a CO steps out to smoke a cigarette, it's going down. Literally, within that second, somebody's getting their shit opened up. But Appalachia Correctional Institution, my first adult prison. This was the first time prison felt like prison, because people were really working out. You had somewhat of a segregation. The white dudes, they just stayed in their own little area unless they were working out with everyone else. If you were on the push-up eyes, dip eyes, pull-up eyes, it was generally a bunch of black dudes, a couple Spanish dudes. The Mexicans and the guys from the islands, like the Bahamas and all that, they would play soccer together. Everyone else, the gangs, would be in their own little areas. And at the YO camps, nobody worked out at rec. One, because showers weren't promised, so you don't want to be stank as hell. Two, they PT us. So we're already having to work out against our will. You don't really have the energy to work out on top of that with the threat of war popping off at any time. You want your strength. Because if someone got pressure with you and they saw how much you just PT'd and then they see you working out, when you get back to the dorm, they know you're weak, they know you're tired, they're going to come, they're going to try to get you up out of there. But at Appalachia, it was more organized. Bimbo was my bunkie at the time. Me and Bimbo were working out heavy. I'd be out there with my brothers hanging out. We would have meetings on the yard. A lot of different gangs would do different things. Sometimes the Bloods and Kings would get together. We would have an organized workout where we would all work out together. Bimba normally ran the workout, so it would be me, Bimba, maybe like 2-3 of his brothers, and we would all be going in rotation working out. When Rambo came, me and Rambo were hitting the yard, me, Rambo, and Bimba, push-ups, dips, all that. Goo came, same thing, we're in rotation. But at the same time, this yard was a lot more deadly. You had this little gazebo-looking thing on the rec yard, and inside of that, it's just open, so you can go under there and just, you know, you're not in the sun or whatever. They got the bathroom in there. I remember there was a kid that got raped inside of that bathroom. And it was just like a closet. Like, it literally had a cage door with holes so you could see right in it. But a kid got scooped up and pulled in there. And he got raped inside of that bathroom. And then you got the guys that run rec, the inmates, where they have the little key around their neck. And they get the footballs and the basketballs. There was organized basketball games. Pretty much everyone playing basketball was all black. Except for this one white kid who was Savage's co-defendant. The one that they say killed the man in the murder that they both went down for. But one incident that happened at Appalachia Correctional Institution was there was a blood on the compound with a hit on his head. This was very close to the time that I was going home. And we were on the rec yard. He was on the rec yard. He slid out from a different dorm and came to rec with us. It's me, Goo, Rambo, all of us are out here. And I remember we got up under this gazebo, and I was surprised because I didn't think he would let us get this close to him. What I heard, someone had already made a move on him, but he got transferred for a medical reason to Lake Butler. And when he came back from Lake Butler, he had a gold chain. And someone came back from Butler with him and said he went and robbed somebody for that chain. This dude wasn't soft. He wasn't somebody that was playing. He was someone that we heard would slang iron, but at the end of the day, there was a green light on him. I had a knife on me on the rec yard. And when we all get up under this gazebo, he's talking to Goo. He has his back turned towards me. I got the knife on me. Now, Goo never wanted me to do anything. Goo never wanted me to hit anyone up. He didn't want me to do none of that. He wanted me to go home. But, you know, you see food, you eat food. And I'm looking at this dude like he's got a green light. I don't see any CO near us. I don't see how I'm going to get caught for this because it's only our people that are right here, right now. And I got this knife inside of my pants and I'm playing it in my head. I'm playing it out. I can walk up and just bank and it's over with, pull it out, throw the knife on top of the roof, walk off, or throw it in the bathroom toilet, walk off. Whatever I do, just hit him with it, get him, walk off. Hoping that that one shot will be enough to take him out, which usually doesn't happen. A lot of people have a misconception that you stab somebody one time and it's over with. That's usually not how it happens. You usually got to stab them a shitload of times, unless you hit them dead in the neck and you know, split something. You got to hit the artery. And I'm running these thoughts through my head. And of course, this is without speaking to Goo. I just saw the opportunity. And you know, he doesn't have his whole back turned. It's somewhat turned. I moved to see if he would peep, and I was behind him. And I was probably like 7 feet away from him. I just remember adrenaline, asking myself, Should I do it? Should I not? Should I do it? And you know, this whole thought process is within probably like a second to 2 seconds before I decide to step forward. And I step forward with my hand in my pants. And when I step forward, immediately, literally immediately, he turned and looked. And I realized what it was the second that I did it. And that's how on point this dude was. He saw from his peripheral my shadow. The sun was facing to our left, which casted the shadow to my right. He saw my shadow move up before I moved, which caused him to turn and look back at me, and I got one hand in my pants. So I try to play it off like I'm fixing my pants or something, and walked past his left, which was still behind him, to which he turned around and watched me. And Goop played it off. He's like, man, what's up, bitch? You know what I'm saying? And we were able to play it off smooth. And I'm grateful as hell, obviously, that it played off like that, because I've read some of the reports on murders inside of prison, and there'll be literally 70 fucking witnesses. It's ridiculous. Everybody opens their mouth. Now that I'm outside of prison, I understand that if I was to do something like that, I would have never came home. And you know, the old schools inside of prison, they tell you it's a body for a body. You catch a body in here, you're going to catch a life sentence. It's just, you're not getting away with it, even though there are some rare cases where people have gotten away with murder. But I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was that made me take that step forward. I just didn't do too much thinking about it. My adrenaline was pumping. It was pumping after the fact. I don't even think he had a blade on him. But at the same time, after it happened, Goose said something to me about it. He was like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you trying to step like that? You know what I'm saying? That could have turned into some whole other shit. Goo told me he didn't even have a blade on him. If dude had a blade, I popped him and moved. He might have popped Goo. It could have turned into some whole... It just wasn't planned. And proper planning prevents poor performance. But that is the uncertainty of the rec yard. Split decisions. Where within a matter of seconds, things can become life or death. Where either you're putting the knife into someone else, or they're trying to put one inside of you. Whether people are kicking up knives on the rec yard because they have them planted, or COs are running out spraying everybody and getting everybody on the floor because it's a riot breaking loose. Not to say I didn't have good days on the rec yard, hanging out, enjoying the sun, working out with my bros, but it's never a place that I want to be again. And with that being said, it's 10 out of Jake. I'm rocking with Charlie. Y'all rocking with me. Till next time.